And we're live.
With Paranormal-Spirits, place we come to get our booze on. We talk about the booze, the things that go bump in the night. And I get to do that with all my booze. I'm Mike Black. To my left, my lovely, beautiful, talented wife, Alyssa.
Greetings.
Across from me, my sidekick, confidant, best friend, John Burkett.
But you can't hear this, I guess. So, hello.
Yeah, it does no good to tip your hat when they can't see you on a podcast.
I'm not wearing a hat, though.
They don't know that if they're listening to a podcast. Only if they're on YouTube.
Oh. Well, if they're on YouTube, you know what they should do?
They should like and subscribe. That's what they should do. So since this is about booze, Alyssa, what are you drinking tonight?
G for tequila.
John?
Pantalones.
Oh.
Nice.
I forget about old pantalones
Because it's
there.
at the very back of the
I know it's at the
liquor
back of the
cabinet.
It's not my favorite.
Behind all those Mi Gente bottles.
Yeah, it's not my favorite, so it gets pushed back a little bit. And I am drinking Arbeg Ugadal. What's Ugadal named after? Is it a river?
It's the stream where
The
you
stream?
get the water in.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
I don't even know how to spell that to even look it up.
There's a bottle right there.
Thanks. I'm sorry. Keep yawning. Apologize. Ugadal is a Scottish Gaelic word that means dark and mysterious place or small promontory. It's also the name of a single malt Scotch beverage from the Ardbeg distillery on Islay.
Which is right there.
Dark and mysterious.
It's good.
That helps us lead into the story.
It is dark and mysterious. So tonight I'm bringing you a story from the dark and mysterious Great White North.
Sure.
And this is a story about the Wendigo.
Wendigo.
Oh, so it's not Alaska, not that far north.
No, not that far north. It was the dead of winter in the boreal forest of Canada, a land where the cold could eat you alive and the silence seemed endless. Jonathan Lambert had been riding his snowmobile for hours. He'd used an extra can of gas, but he was well prepared and still had 2 more for the trip back. He was a solitary figure cutting through the snow-covered wilderness, his breath fogging the air in front of him. He was heading to the remote cabin his family owned, where he planned to spend a week hunting and savoring the deep, quiet solitude of nature. By the time he arrived at the cabin, dusk was settling over the land, casting long, twisted shadows that crept like fingers through the trees. The cabin stood there, a beacon in the desolation. Jonathan parked his snowmobile by the door and stepped inside. The cold inside the cabin was only slightly less frigid than the cold outside. He could build a fire quickly enough, though, and it would fix that. And soon the fire was blazing in the fireplace, and he sat on the hearth, feeling the warmth wrap around him like an old blanket. This was a time for reset. He had come alone this time, no friends, no distractions, no phone, no Teams meetings, no email. Just him and the vast, empty wilderness. Jonathan sat in the cabin alone, and something was gnawing at him, like maybe deep down he knew what it was, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Had he seen something on the trail during the trip up that didn't quite register on a conscious level? The forest seemed quieter than usual. It was still, morbidly quiet. Maybe it was the wind, or the lack thereof. An hour passed, and Jonathan's unease grew like a shadow in the back of his mind. The silence outside felt heavy, almost tangible. He decided to step out and look around. The cold bit into his skin as he ventured from the cabin into the night. That's when he noticed the tracks in the snow. Large, elongated footprints that seemed almost human but were twisted and warped like something out of a nightmare. His heart began to pound. He'd heard tales of creatures in the wilderness, with names that were only spoken in hushed tones, whispered around campfires. But those were just stories, right? The tracks were obviously from some indigenous animal that the thawing and refreezing over multiple times had misshapen. He followed the tracks cautiously. The last thing he wanted to do was wander up on a wolverine. A passing thought entered his mind to go back and grab his rifle. He dismissed it as he had no intention of going that far, but each step took him a little deeper into the dark, into the foreboding forest. The trees stood like ancient sentinels, their branches creaking ominously under the weight of the snow. An overwhelming sense of dread washed over him, and he felt the forest closing in around him, suffocating and oppressive. He thought about going back to the cabin, locking himself inside where it was warm and safe. Then in the stillness, something shattered with a desperate voice from the past. "Jonathan! Jonathan, help!" Was that Sarah? And then the scream that froze Jonathan's blood in his veins. Sarah screaming for her life. What the fuck, he thought. He ran towards the scream. Sarah isn't here. This made no sense, but still he ran on. His heart hammering in his chest. The tracks led to a small cliff with no more than about a 30-foot drop, and there below, on the moonlit snow-covered boulders, he saw it, whatever it was. The creature stood hunched over, a grotesque parody of a man. Its gaunt frame was covered in ashen, decaying skin that clung to its bones like a shroud. Its eyes burned with an unholy light, and its mouth was smeared with dry, caked blood. It looked up as Jonathan approached, revealing rows of sharp, rotting teeth. They stood there frozen in the moment. They stared at each other, predator and prey. Then the creature let out a bone-chilling scream and began scrambling up the rocks. Jonathan barely had time to react, diving to the side and scrambling to his feet. Where the hell was his rifle? Oh yeah, in a cabin, dumbass. He ran, the creature's guttural growls echoing in his ears, propelling him forward. The forest blurred around him as he sprinted, his muscles burning, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He could hear the creature crashing through the underbrush behind him, relentless, unstoppable. He stumbled, his mind racing, thoughts flashed through his head, fragmented, disjointed. He thought of his childhood. He thought of summer spent by the lake with his family, the warmth of the sun on his skin, his mother's laughter. He thought of Sarah, the woman he had loved and lost, her face slipping through his fingers like water. All things he had done and all the things he had left undone. Regret washed over him, mingling with the raw terror that drove him onward. He stumbled again, falling to his knees, the snow cold and unforgiving beneath him. The creature was closer now, its foul breath hot on his neck. Jonathan tried to rise, but his legs wouldn't obey. His strength was gone, drained away by the relentless cold and fear. The creature was upon him, its claws sinking into his flesh. Pain exploded through him, white-hot and blinding. Blood sprayed and painted the snow in front of him a pretty shade of pink. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the night. The Wendigo's eyes bored into his, and he saw nothing but hunger and insatiable void. As the Wendigo tore into him, Jonathan's thoughts grew distant, like whispers carried away by the wind. He thought of the cabin, the fire that had seemed so warm and inviting. He thought of the life he had lived, the choices he had made, and in his final moments he thought of the cold, vast wilderness that would be his grave. The pain receded, replaced by numbness that spread through his body. As his vision blurred, he saw the creature's face bury into his own belly. He could hear the squishing sounds of soft, blood-soaked organs being chewed upon. And then the world narrowed to a single point of light. He thought of Sarah one last time. Her smile, her touch, and then there was nothing. When the sun finally rose, its light piercing through the darkness, it revealed uneven pink snow, the only sign of the horror that had taken place there last night. Jonathan Lambert was never seen again. His snowmobile stood abandoned by the cabin, a silent sentinel in the endless white. In the years that followed, the stories grew, whispered around campfires, and muttered in hushed voices. Some listened, others laughed it off as a ghost story. But those who knew the truth, the hunters, the wanderers of the northern forests, spoke of Jonathan Lambert with a mixture of fear and reverence, for they knew that sometimes the legends are real, and the Wendigo still hungers, lurking in the shadows and waiting for the unwary. So Wendigo is a mythological creature or evil spirit originating from the Algonquian folklore. The Algonquian people are an indigenous people who now live in the eastern part of Canada, and at one point they stretched all the way along the east coast and across North America and Canada. They belong.
Canada is in North America.
I'm sorry, the United States and Canada. My apologies, and you are correct. Thank you for straightening me out, John. So the Algonquins is a tribe. The Algonquian language family are groups and tribes of Native Americans that speak the same language. Culturally and linguistically, they're very similar.
Ojibwe, Cree.
The Ojibwe, the Cree, exactly. And so right now, they think that there's close to about 8,000 Algonquins in Canada, and they're organized into 10 separate First Nations. There are 9 in Quebec and 1 in Ontario. So as the tale goes, the Wendigo actually started out as a hunter that was out in the brutally cold winter with a partner, and they're hunting through the woods and the forest. They can't find any food. One man's intense hunger drives him to cannibalism, and he falls upon his buddy, kills him, and then eats him. Once he eats him, he's transformed into a crazed man-beast roaming the forest in search of more people to eat. And the concept of Wendigo has been widely used in literature and other works of art, such as social commentary and horror fiction. So the Wendigo predates the Europeans' arrival in North America. Some anthropologists believe that the legend actually developed as a cautionary tale about the importance of community, sticking together during the hard, cold, brutal winters when
they needed people.
Yeah, well, when they needed to share and to guard against the individual greed, selfishness, isolation. And the Wendigo was actually the personification of cold and hunger. It's also thought that it might have been a tale just to keep little kids from wandering too far out into the woods by themselves.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah. I mean,
like, what is it? The Village? Is that the one?
The movie?
Yeah.
The M. Night Shyamalan?
Shyamalan.
I can never
I
say
really
anything
like
right. Well,
Shyamalan, and I really like
It's Hansel and Gretel,
Well,
you know.
spoiler alert. Just if I hadn't seen it, it's got one of those Shyamalan twist endings. But
It does, but I really like that movie.
I
did too.
liked that twist ending on that one. I was like, okay, that was clever.
That was clever and completely unseen.
But you know, Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood, those are all tales
The
about
witchy.
Yeah, don't go out into the woods by yourself. You know, you'll get lost. You'll get eaten by a witch or
The
something like
big
that.
bad wolf will get you.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it might back then.
Yeah, it might have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they think that's where it was, you know, a lesson to be learned or to be taught, you know, that they needed to stick together and they needed to rely on each other rather than being greedy. And the first written record of a Wendigo was in 1636, and it was reported by Paul Lejeune, a French Jesuit missionary living among the Algonquin people in what is now Quebec. Lejeune described a woman who warns that one had eaten some tribal members nearby and would eat a great many more of them if it were not called elsewhere. So I know we all have in our mind what a Wendigo looks like, and I know there's that trail cam pic that's been everywhere, that skinny thing that's really weird shaped, you know, and everybody's seen that, and I'll of course drop a copy of it up on.
There's a lot of films where they put antlers on it too.
I know.
Well, it looks like a deer thing. Like all the pictures, like when you search Wendigo, it's
it shows the antlers.
Deer thing.
So we always think of this skinny thing, you know, and there's lots of stories about it. The Cree people believed the Wendigo was a malevolent spirit and not a physical entity, and that it would possess a human and cause it to have these feelings of insatiable hunger, desire to eat humans, propensity to kill.
Maybe that's what happened to Dahmer.
Maybe so.
The Wendigo?
He was a Wendigo. He was possessed by a Wendigo.
Maybe it happened. Who knows? But then there's also there are stories of giant Wendigos, and what happens is once this person becomes a Wendigo, and every time they eat, they're immediately not satisfied with what they eat, and they grow in size proportionate with what they've eaten.
You know what might
So it just
cure
keeps
them?
getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
They need the
Ozempic?
some Ozempic.
Some semaglutide.
Some glutide, some terzepatide or something. That would probably, you just put it in a dart gun.
Some phenermine.
Oh, you're going to like this, though. According to legend, the ones where they're giant Wendigos, and I'm using air quotes here, giant Wendigos, their approach is typically signaled by a foul stench or an unseasonable chill.
Like Bray Road Beast?
Well, like Bigfoot.
Well,
and I'm thinking
the chills don't come.
I know this, but the gigantic part and the stench, it sounds like a Bigfoot.
But don't all typically malevolent spirits that we've talked about have the stench thing, usually like the rotting meat?
Mm-hmm. That is true.
Or sulfur.
Or sulfur.
Yeah, the demonic
Or
type
brimstone.
stuff you hear about. It. Typically there is that stench, and there can be cold spots,
Isn't it winter though? Usually when so it's always a cold spot in Canada.
It's always, and the Wendigo is from all the legends are from up north,
Canada,
Canada.
but they are so some of the attributes of the Wendigo, they're believed to have an exceptionally sharp eyesight, hearing, sense of smell, as well as superior strength and speed.
Sounds like a vampire too, a little bit.
Well, there are some comparisons between the Wendigo and a werewolf, where it's possessed by something, it changes into this other creature. They always live in colder climates among the woodlands and of Canada and northern United States. They can easily move through deep snow and across ice. They can also mimic voices.
Hence your story.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah.
Yeah. That's why I put it in there, because it's, he knew that Sarah wasn't there, but that was a voice that would draw him.
What was that other thing that you hear about?
Skinwalkers.
Skinwalkers, yeah.
But I feel like there was something else that we've heard on one of the other podcasts we listened to, that when he goes out into the woods and it like cries at him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They always say if you hear this, don't listen to voices from the woods at night.
Or voices in general.
Yeah. So that's probably one of the creepiest traits, is its ability to mimic voices, human voices, their own voice, or voices of loved ones, and it lures them out into the woods where it can, kill them and eat them then. And speaking of killing a Wendigo, the way you kill a Wendigo, it takes a shaman, and it is believed that they have to use, and again, when we're talking about the Algonquian tribes, there's lots of them, so there's varying stories. Some say silver, some say steel, some say it has to be an iron bullet or a dagger.
The Winchesters said you have to burn them.
Oh, did they on Supernatural?
Season 1.
Yeah.
They ran to Wendigo at season 1.
You got to burn them, huh?
You got to burn them.
Even others claim that you have to cut the Wendigo's heart out, and it must be melted or burned in a fire before its spirit is truly vanquished. The Cree, as I mentioned before, believe that the Wendigo is a spirit and not a physical thing, and it can possess a human, and it can either possess them by biting them or even through a dream, that they can enter through a dream and you can become possessed and become a Wendigo. Once possessed, the person becomes cannibalistic or otherwise deranged and violent. And some people are thought to be more susceptible, people that are naturally greedy or gluttonous. So they think that there is a connection there. And if a person is suffering from hunger or starvation, and they even have a colloquial phrase for that, and it's called going Wendigo. So
We should call it Wendigo-go.
Wendigo-go, yep.
Or Wendigoing.
So Basil H. Johnson, an Ojibwe teacher and scholar from Ontario, gives a description of the Wendigo. And he says the Wendigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation, its desiccated skin pulled tightly over its bones with its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep in its sockets. The Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody, unclean and suffering separation of the flesh. The Wendigo gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and composition.
Decomposition.
What did I say?
Composition.
Composition.
Did I? Oh.
We're writing now?
As I were. Decomposition. Yeah. So, modern psychology. So, there's actually a Wendigo psychosis. And Wendigo psychosis is characterized by symptoms of intense craving for human flesh or fear of becoming a cannibal.
Just like lycanthropy.
And this is
clinical lycanthropy.
Right. And this is considered to be a cultural bound syndrome. So you and I, John, Alyssa, we cannot have Wendigo psychosis. However, if we were part of the Algonquian speaking tribes, then we could have Wendigo psychosis.
What if I identify as?
What if you're just from Canada? What if you're just Canadian? I mean, and
You
you're
have to be Algonquin?
Hey,
You're
you know,
around
I don't know.
Hey.
Algonquin-speaking people.
Hey.
You know, I don't know.
It's kind of like the Skinwalker thing.
It seems a little prejudiced to me
A
as
little
well.
culturalistic or something. I don't know. I'm making up words, but what if I want to have Wendigo psychosis?
Well, I'm
I
sure
don't
that
want
you can.
to, but-
I'm sure you can identify as a Wendigo if you like.
Being European, you would have clinical lycanthropy.
In this day and day
Calm.
and age, you can identify as a Wendigo.
Okay.
But if you come at me and try to eat me in the middle of the night, I'm going to beat your ass.
He's probably old and tough anyway.
I will. I know, right? I'd be
like beef jerky.
like a
Beef jerky. Apparently, I'm
It's gonna
supposed
be my
to be
new
like,
nickname,
like
beef
some
jerky.
Jack Links over here.
I'm
gonna be
not
my new
gaunt and
nickname.
skeletal, so I don't know. Maybe just in spirit, I would.
Yeah, I'm not gaunt for sure.
Wendigoing.
So let's talk about some historical figures. One that you might know.
That were Wendigos?
One that you might know is Swift Runner.
I've seen his picture before.
Yeah.
His photograph.
Okay.
I know this.
You know this story?
Ish.
Yeah?
Ish.
Okay.
I seen his picture.
Okay, so
Before
it's
he-
pretty famous, actually.
Yeah, there's a photograph. There's a black and white photograph of him I've seen. Clearly not color in 1878, but
I got you.
I've seen his picture.
Okay, so Swift Runner is one of the historical figures, and he was a Cree hunter and trapper from the country north of Fort Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. His Cree name was Kakisi Kitchen. Kakisi Kitchen.
What was that?
Kakisi
Catch a
Kitchen.
kitchen.
Kiss.
God, that is hard. Kakisi Kitchen. Okay. Anyway,
Bless.
his name was Swift Runner. He was so evidently Swift Runner was a big man, and I saw the picture of him. He was
Yeah, he's a
big old, tall, muscular, strapping boy, and he traded with Hudson Bay Company in 1875, and served as a guide for the Northwest Mounted Police at one point.
He big fella.
Yeah, and I'll throw a picture up so that you can see he's a big old tall feller, and by all accounts, well liked until he developed a taste for firewater.
You mean this?
Alcohol?
Whiskey, yeah. It's whiskey then. So, it said when he was drunk, he became extremely violent and nasty. And anyway, as I said, he was working for the police. Well, the police said, you know, dude, you may not have the personality to work with us, especially, you know, when you're drinking. So they sent him back to his tribe and said, we no longer require your services. He gets back to his tribe, and he is so mean and evil and hateful there that they kick him out of the tribe, and they say, you got to go. So in the winter of 1878/79 or -79, however you want to do it, Swift Runner took his family, including his wife, 6 children, his mother-in-law, and his brother out to a hunting camp that he had. You know, he's a trapper hunter and all that. So he's got a hunting camp out there. Come springtime, Swift Runner is the only one that came back to the tribe.
Full belly.
He said his wife had committed suicide and others had died of starvation. Now, Swift Runner did not look like he was starving and appeared to be well fed and in good shape. Swift Runner's in-laws asked the police to investigate. So the police traveled with Swift Runner to his family's camp in the wilderness north of Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta. Swift Runner brings a detachment of mounted police to the camp. And when he gets there, he shows them the grave of his eldest son. The police opened up the grave and found the bones undisturbed. But there were human bones scattered all around his encampment. Some broken in half and hollowed out.
Got that marrow.
Which can only mean one thing. Somebody broke the bones in half and sucked the marrow out. Mm. They found a pot full of human fat. Mm.
That's the best for French fries.
Oh, my God.
Gross.
So Swift Runner, there's a skull there, and he identifies the skull as belonging to his wife, and a small moccasin had been stuffed inside the skull. Swift Runner's mother-in-law, was beating the moccasins. The beating needle was still stuck in the moccasin, and it was stuck inside the skull. So they asked Swift Runner, "Hey, dude, this doesn't look right." And it didn't take much prodding, and Swift Runner admits to what had happened. He said, at first, he had become haunted by dreams, and a Wendigo spirit called on him to consume people around him. And the spirit crept through his mind, gradually taking control, and he finally became a Wendigo. So it wasn't him, but it was the Wendigo who had killed and ate Swift Runner's wife and eventually cooked and ate the rest of the family. Swift Runner confessed to the killings. He said it all began after returning to his camp after a moose hunt, and all he could hear was young moose, nothing but moose. At first, Swift Runner became haunted by dreams, and then the spirit called upon him to consume the people around him. The spirit crept through his mind, gradually taking control, and finally he became a Wendigo and killed and ate his whole family. Now, local gossip, the people there in his tribe, said that this is not the first time that something like this had happened with Swift Runner. Swift Runner had been out on a hunting expedition with one of his friends, and they had been out in the woods far away from everyone else, and Swift Runner was the only one that came back. Well fed. And so Swift Runner at that time admitted to resorting to cannibalism out of hunger and, an emergency. His friend had died somehow, and he ate him. Now, the police didn't really believe that Swift Runner resorted to cannibalism out of hunger, since emergency food supplies were only 25 miles away at Hudson Bay.
That's a long way in the snow.
That's 2 days' walk.
In the snow.
Yeah.
Uphill.
Yeah. Both ways.
Barefoot.
Both ways. Yeah. So they didn't believe that he had just been hungry. They think that he got
the spirit of the Wendigo.
He got the taste.
Wendigo psychosis.
He got to liking that long pig.
Once you get a taste for the long pig,
you can't go back, right?
Just ask Albert Fish.
Google
it. Google
it if you don't know it. Oh my God!
Prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Gross.
So on May 27th, 1879, the mounted police arrested Swift Runner. Swift Runner was sentenced to be hung at Fort Saskatchewan on December 20th, 1879 at 7:30 a.m. He declined to speak to a priest before he was executed. Quoting him, "The white man has ruined me," he said. "I don't think their God would amount to much." Swift Runner was given the opportunity to address the crowd that had gathered to be watching. Swift Runner was given the opportunity to address the crowd that had gathered to witness his execution. He openly acknowledged his guilt, thanked his jailers for their kindness, and berated his executioners for making him wait in the frigid cold. Just before the trapdoor opened, Swift Runner said, "I am no longer a man." So what had happened, they took him out there. They had the gallows ready, right? And they're going to take him out, and he's going to be hung. Well, he gets out there, and the trap door had frozen and broken.
Oh, no.
On the gallows. So they had to rebuild the door for it and then hang it. So rather than taking him back in and putting him in his cell, they just leave him out there in the cold.
Well, they got to be out there to fix it, so he
yeah,
might as
why
well
not?
be out there too. He
So-
did butcher and eat his entire family. I don't really have a lot of sympathy.
Well, they set him there by a fire with pemmican to eat while he was waiting.
So beef jerky,
yeah,
ironically.
so-
Maybe it was beef.
Maybe it was. So anyway, they set him out there by the fire and let him eat pemmican while they were fixing the gallows.
Was the crowd Indians? Because they're not supportive of the white man's way of killing.
I don't know. Well, they
They
probably
don't
would
like
have.
hanging.
They probably would have killed him though.
Yeah, they would have, but like tomahawk.
Tomahawk chop.
Yeah, but anyway, so that was one of the historical figures. Another one is Jack Fiddler. You ever hear Jack Fiddler?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Jack Fiddler had become
Wendigo hunter, isn't he? Like,
He was a famous shaman, famous for his ability to conjure animals and protect his people from spells. Most importantly, the people of the region, he could allegedly successfully defeat the Wendigo. And Jack Fiddler had claimed to have defeated no less than 14 Wendigos. Some were sent against his people, and he had defeated them.
that's 13 more than the Winchester brothers.
The guy must have been legit, huh? Anyway, he was asked whenever somebody got sick, he would be asked to take them out before they became a Wendigo. Sometimes these people would request it themselves and ask to be euthanized. Now, you have to understand, this sounds really weird to us, but Jack Fiddler's tribe had not even seen white man at that point. They lived off so far out in the wilderness that they had not experienced white man at all. And so the Northwest Mounted Police, wanting to bring control over the indigenous population, decided that they would go and they would make an example of this guy who's killing people. So they go in early 1907, 2 members of the Northwest Mounted Police.
In 1907, he'd never seen a white man.
Yeah. So visiting Island Lake, heard of Jack Fiddler's power against the Wendigo from Norman Ray.
Norma Ray.
No, Norman Ray, who was an in-law of the Fiddlers. And the Mounties arrested Jack and Joseph Fiddler for murder. And these guys are getting on up in age, too. They're pretty elderly.
I do have a question, though.
Yeah.
If he's never seen a white man, how is his name Joe Fiddler?
Jack.
Jack Fiddler.
And not something
Actually, his
impronounceable.
name was Jawuno Higo Gavao.
There you go.
His dad,
Mm-hmm.
Pimi Chikag, which means porcupine standing sideways.
That's a dope name.
That is actually. I want to be porcupine standing sideways. So yeah, there's there's a whole big long backstory of how he got his name, and I did not go into that because I thought that it was rather boring, so I didn't add that into the story. But I'll not skip over that next time.
No, just curious. If it is uncontacted tribe, why do you have a very English name?
So
it says that they through trading they became the natives and designated whole clans during trading were given English surnames.
Yeah, I can't believe in 250 years of English and French occupation of Canada, he had never seen a white person. I find that hard to believe.
Well, think about places in Africa still that
or South America, more likely
or South America, that only recently they've ever seen,
or that
Europeans.
That island off of the coast of India, the Sinhalese, North Sinhalese island, where they kill anybody that comes on.
Oh yeah. So see what
very
I mean?
wisely. It's
Yeah,
what the natives here should have done.
So, and we'd never been here, John. So anyway, they arrest Jack and Joseph Fiddler for murder, and the brothers are charged with murdering Joseph's daughter-in-law the year before. So on September 30th, Jack Fiddler escaped captivity during a walk outside. So
his
the guards,
daughter-in-law? So she was a Wendigo.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it would have been a Wendigo. Or Wendigo.
Wendigo. Oh, if you go
Wendigo instead of Wendigo.
When you go to Latin, gender.
Yeah. I'm not going to assume.
I like Wendigo.
So on September 30th, Jack Fiddler escaped captivity during a walk outside. Now, the guards let him outside to walk, and during that time, he hanged himself and was found later that day. I'm going to bet if they had really dug into that, they probably killed him. That's what I'm thinking. He probably didn't do it to himself.
Like Epstein.
Yeah. Yeah, like the way Epstein hung himself.
Hung himself in air quotes. Hillary hung
So, you're right. So, Joseph Fiddler, he still went to trial and was convicted and sentenced to death.
Posthumously?
Wait.
No. Joseph, not Jack.
Not
Jack.
Jack.
I'm sorry.
There's two.
Jack is already
brother.
Jack's already dead.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Jack
Joseph, Jack never made it to trial.
He hung
Joseph
himself.
goes to trial, his brother.
Okay.
And when he went to trial, he was convicted and he was sentenced to death
Because of
for killing
the
Wendigo.
Wendigo people. Wendigo, got you.
Which is really none of the white man's business. That's internal tribal business. They should be staying out of.
Anyway, so he kills. So he's sentenced to death. His tribe appeals for him, saying that look, she was very sick. She asked to be euthanized, and even who's the guy, the original Norman Ray, recanted his testimony. So they were going to release him, and so I guess it was the governor, but whoever released him, and he got his release, but it came 3 days after he died in prison in 1909.
Did they kill him in prison?
No, he died.
Oh, he died.
He just died. Old age.
Damn.
It sounds like Dudley Do-Right needed to mind his own business.
Yeah. But anyway, Wendigo sightings continue today along the U.S. and Canadian border. So walking alone in the woods might not be a good idea. And one person said, ancient gods and goddesses are rarely worshipped, but it doesn't mean they haven't ceased to exist. We are just less aware of their supernatural presence.
We are, because we've been ever since Christianity came along and they beat it out of us and all, we're less aware of the spiritual world and nature.
I totally agree with that.
And
I really do.
Screens and stuff. And
all this, we're so addicted to all the stimuli around us that we don't do well with quiet, And if we could get quiet and listen, there's no telling what we would hear.
But we're also told that
It doesn't
wrong,
exist.
That
It doesn't exist, and it's wrong. Yeah.
Get in line, conform, get your fluoride, and
Oh my God! Here we go with the tinfoil hat.
what's up in here? Can I have a little dram of this?
Well, sure. Why would I deny you a dram of Ugadal?
Ugadal?
Even though it's harder to find, and
It's not
Just
that hard to
drink
find. You can
it.
just go to
I gotta-
Coffee City. And
I gotta
buy
go.
it.
I gotta drive across the lake to find it. So anyway, so speaking of that, some native people believe that the spirit and the ideas of the Wendigo, they actually live on in the modern world as executives in corporations, multinationals, and conglomerates.
Bezos.
People who yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. People who have an insatiable appetite to devour natural resources, no matter what the consequence.
Fauci?
What? No, I mean, I'm thinking more like Bezos or
Bill Gates or
Bill Gates. Well,
of course, he did give away a lot of his money.
Yeah, but he also wants you to eat bugs.
Yeah,
So you know.
but no, those that just have to make more and have to get more and have to,
I know.
there's just no stopping to it. And that is what a Wendigo is. It's just that insatiable hunger, insatiable
Gordon
appetite.
Gekko.
I think any kind of addiction, whether it be for power or money or drugs, alcohol, whatever, I think you could say that's that Wendigo spirit, where you just cannot be satiated. And so
Totally get the food part too. Like, right.
So they believe that anybody with insatiable appetite to devour natural resources, no matter what the consequences, is to communities and human victims, that they had that Wendigo spirit. Now, there's a Cree songwriter and singer, Buffy St. Marie.
Oh, I have heard. Yeah, I am familiar with folk singer. Yeah, from
You know
the
her.
60s. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So she has a song, The Priests of the Golden Bull, and she asserts that money junkies, this is in air quotes I'm throwing up, money junkies of the world are Wendigos. Greed, indifference, and ravenous consumption continue to kill a lot of people every year, is what she said.
It's true.
And much like other legendary beasts, Wendigo remains a fixture in pop culture in modern times. The creature has been referenced and sometimes even depicted in a very I can't talk, variety of hit television shows, including
Supernatural,
Grimm,
yeah,
Charmed. Interestingly,
I've never seen Charmed, but Grimm and Supernatural.
I watched Charmed.
yeah, I like Charmed.
Grimm is good. Just check out Grimm.
I haven't watched Grimm, but I did watch Charmed.
It's a little lighter version of Supernatural. A little dark, but still.
There's
I listen
movies
a lot.
out there. There's Antlers,
Antlers.
the new movie.
That's Chef Kiss.
Oh yeah, Antlers,
Antlers.
Ravenous. Ravenous is my favorite Wendigo movie that I've seen. Have you seen that one?
I have. It's been a while.
It's the
Antlers is the freshest on my mind.
Ravenous is so good.
Guillermo del Toro was involved in Antlers, so it has that when you finally get the reveal of yeah, it's like it's got that.
Yeah, the trailer is kicking, man. I haven't seen it
Guillermo
yet,
touch. It's
but
great.
the trailer is killer. And interestingly enough, there are a couple of lakes named after the Wendigo, and that you have in Minnesota, you have Lake Wendigo.
You do.
And in Wisconsin,
Middle Yankee.
Yeah.
yeah, right. In Wisconsin, you have Wendigo Lake. So you have Lake Wendigo in Minnesota and Wendigo Lake in Wisconsin.
Listen, when I was a kid, I don't remember what year it was, but I was probably about Adeline's age, and went to summer camp at Lake Tyler, and it was Camp Wendigo.
Was it really?
Yeah, sure
That's
was.
crazy. So anyway, those who believe in the physical Wendigo think he might still be out there in the woods. But remember that underneath that flesh-eating demon thing that runs through the woods, there might still be a human man who was just once a hungry hunter.
There's some other really good movie with some hunters that go to a cabin, and
By
there's this thing
Bemidji.
God, I wish I could remember the name of it. It's a lower budget, but a good, really good lower budget horror film with a Wendigo. But it's got the antlers and stuff when you finally see it. But it's more about, sort of like remaking The Thing. You get the paranoia between the hunters and stuff. It's a good. I wish I could remember the name.
Yeah,
it's going to drive me nuts now.
When I saw Ravenous, I was like, that was before I knew about the Wendigo. And I saw Ravenous, and I thought, man, that is a great movie. And it's got that dude from Hollywood Confidential, LA Confidential, that's it. I forget his name, but that was real good looking dude.
He was in Lawless too, with Tom Hardy and Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, he was a bad guy.
I don't remember that. I don't remember being a bad guy there. I remember being the cop, the detective, or something like that.
Yeah,
in
LA
Confidential, yeah.
And he's in Memento.
Did you look him up?
Oh, I like Memento.
He's in Memento, yeah.
Which one, from Ravenous?
Yeah.
It's a guy from Memento. I can't remember.
Anyway, so
Memento was a good one.
And it's also got that Irish guy or Scottish guy from
Guy Pearce.
Yeah, Guy Pearce, that's it, Guy Pearce. So what do you think? Do you think Wendigos could be possible? Do you think it's just they've created this monster out of somebody who was just a cannibal, or are we talking a Jeffrey Dahmer that was in one of the tribes, or what was it?
I think it's probably a cautionary morality tale. But I can see that they're like the Buffy St. Marie thing. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
makes sense to me that it's
maybe it's the native thing applied to an
Right.
actual human trait to consume and devour. Because
in times of starvation.
No, period.
Just in general.
I mean, look at in Western society, in European society. Not greed is good, Gordon Gekko, right? But with Native Americans who are much more in touch with the land, it's really you never take more than you need.
Well,
that would be seen as a very, very bad thing.
Oh, absolutely, because they're not as much as geared.
I don't know if I'm saying what I'm expressing myself correctly.
They're not as geared towards succeeding individually as they are
material
succeeding.
Things is not important.
Yeah, but they succeed as a tribe. That's the reason they survive, is because they're a tribe and they've all got each other's back.
But all the way going back thousands of years, people from in Western society or European society, especially in America,
because you're talking about greed.
Oh,
for sure.
Or individual success and
every man for himself,
possessions and all that.
Yeah. We are a collector of things now,
We're not as tribal as we used to be.
No,
we're
not.
tribal, it's just different tribes now.
Well,
but and that's what allowed man to survive, because we're smarter than all the other animals, right?
Well, I hear dolphins
humans
might be smarter than us.
Yeah, I know, but I mean that would be an exception, and they don't walk on land, so we don't have
opposable thumbs.
Right, they don't have opposable thumbs. And they don't walk on land, and so they don't enter into my world. So but my thing is, the reason that we were able to rise up above the other beasts of the field was because, one thing, we banded together. We created weapons. We created tools.
Yeah, tool making is
that's the thing that skipped us ahead of everybody else.
Walking upright, so you can see over the trees, so you can see the saber tooth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
or you can see the lion or whatever. It's
right.
Doing. Yeah,
but
tool making.
Yeah, but even before that, when they could just pick up sticks and fight off, whatever with some sticks. Yeah, that's a primitive tool. Agreed. But the fact that they banded together, they stuck together for protection, and that's a very primal thing for us.
All hominids kind of do that. I mean, chimpanzees.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
All of our relatives do that.
Yes, but what they're saying here, the Cree, the Algonquins, are saying that those who do not band together, who do not share their food, who do not participate in the tribe, and they set themselves apart, and they're selfish and greedy and gluttonous, and they take the biggest portion of the meat and don't share it, then that is an evil thing to them, because it takes all of them working together, to survive, especially considering the environment that they lived in with the cold and the winters are horrible there, and can you imagine, back then, and they lived in kind of the wigwam looking structures, not teepees, but kind of that wooden wigwam.
Titties.
Yeah. Prairie titties.
Prairie titties.
Gosh.
Oh my God. And there we are. Back to titties. I knew we could get there.
So they sound like a bunch of commies. They are.
Okay.
They are in Canada.
I'm gonna go here that communism in theory is not a bad thing. In theory. In practice, it never works. Not for long.
No, doesn't ever work.
It
doesn't.
It doesn't work. Does it?
There's always
but why
some
doesn't
guy.
it?
Because absolute power.
Because somebody's going to get greedy.
There's
just like the
always
Wendigo.
a Stalin. There's always a Mao. There's always a
Was it absolute power destroys absolutely, or
Kim family.
Corrupts.
corrupt?
That's Spider-Man.
That's Spider-Man.
That is not Spider-Man who said that.
Oh wait, no,
power-
never mind. You're right. You're right.
That
With
is
great
not-
power comes great responsibility.
Yes, that's Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. That's actually Uncle Ben.
I was like,
Yeah.
what?
But, not the Rice Uncle Ben, but Spider-Man's Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Apparently, Lord
Aunt
Acton
May's
said
husband.
that.
Who?
Lord Acton.
Well, I'm glad you looked that up because I did not remember. To be honest with you.
All power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's my Wendigo story. That's all I got.
I didn't know they look like deer.
They not really. I mean, they're not supposed to. That's,
I mean, when you look up the images, though, like they're almost all this skeletal, half like human-ish
With the deer
thing.
antlers.
antlers, real tall.
Yes, and kind of like
And the drawings,
Cryptidy.
the ones I've always seen are the ones where they almost have like a deer mouth on them, But then I was reading on some other stuff about it, and the reason that it looks like that, it's always like bony, like
Yeah.
around the
Because
mouth.
the lips have receded.
No, because they eat their own lips. They chew their lips off because they want more food.
Gross.
And they can't get it. Yeah. How crazy is that?
I always think
There's some crazy stories out there.
desperation.
The movie ones look. I mean, the antlers do look cool in the movie thing. And interesting, in the antlers movie. That doesn't. You don't see that. I don't want to spoil anything. You got to see that film. But
The antler thing is typically like with the skinwalkers, the antlers were an adornment to increase the spiritual power of the skinwalker.
there is a Bigfoot versus Wendigo movie.
Oh my God, I'm not even.
Is it like Sharknado?
I can't remember what
It's got to be right up there with it.
It's not exactly a big budget. They didn't have Marvel budget for this. But
Three-headed shark attacks Pennsylvania. That one.
Bigfoot's the good guy in this one.
of course.
Sasquatch versus Wendigo.
It's
No.
called something else though. But I can't remember the name. I've watched it. It's one of those like
Dawn of the Beast.
yeah, that's it. It's actually pretty good. It's not
I
bad.
bet it is.
No, it's not. I mean, I'd give it a 2.5. It's worth an hour and a half. Can't do anything else.
Hour and
Is
50.
it Centenario good?
No, I mean it's a good movie.
Centenario has a cool bottle.
It does have a cool bottle.
It's a good movie.
Bigfoot.
The movie's
versus
probably got a great
Wendigo.
trailer.
It's a minute and 57
It's one of those
seconds.
not asylum, but one of the all the low budget horror. I can't remember the studio that makes them, but it's okay.
All right.
If you're doing nothing else,
I'll-
it's okay.
I can usually find something else. When I see those kind of movies, though, I'm going to be honest with you. When I see those kind of movies and I go, Sasquatch versus...
That's not the name of it. It's
Dawn
called
of the
Dawn of the
Beast.
Beast. So
Bigfoot.
you're
Okay, whatever.
you're into it already before you realize that Bigfoot's not the
I'm-
bad guy in the film.
And I'm looking at it and I go, no, I can go outside and watch my grass grow or something. I'm serious. I'll find something to do. I'll go clean the garage. Something.
It's 2021.
Yeah, it's relatively new. I mean, it's not been that long since I saw it. I'm not saying it's antlers.
I would
okay?
I would have to drink a lot more Ugadal before I
Did you
could
watch
sit through that
Antlers?
probably.
Yes.
Not yet.
Yeah, you have to see Antlers. Antlers is
I wanna
is
see
a
Antlers.
big budget. Guillermo del Toro's
Yeah.
involved in it.
It looks really, really
It's-
good.
I hadn't
And it
even
has
heard of
Meth
it.
Damon in it.
It does have Meth Damon, Jesse Plemons,
Yes.
who one of the greatest character actors in Hollywood today.
He is really good.
He is fantastic.
He is very good.
He was
He
great.
is creepy AF.
Or he can be funny.
Why did I not know about
Because you don't
Antlers.
watch. Oh, Antlers? I don't know.
Antlers was supposed to come out in theaters in like summer of 2020.
during COVID?
COVID hit, so they postponed the release for it took a while before it, and I think that took some momentum out of it.
Did it?
There was quite a bit of buzz around it, and then COVID hit and the theater shut down.
Ooh, this Dawn of the Beast looks a little. I'm watching the trailer. I can't hear it, but I can see it. It's a little gruesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's bloody.
Looks a little werewolfy, actually. Some of it.
Yeah.
That is werewolfy.
All right. So
Interesting.
I drink our big Ugadal tonight. What'd you drink? G4?
G4.
And John, what'd you drink?
Pantalones
Pantalones.
first, and then I rinsed the glass out with this water and had a little Ugadal.
He Quattro.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about where you can see this video. If you are listening on a podcast, make sure that you go to 3B Paranormal-Spirits on YouTube. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Over around John's arm over there, he's got a place you can subscribe. There's one right down here you can subscribe. Hit the like button right in the middle. And I'm pointing everywhere because I want people to push all those things, right? So
Except for the thumbs down. Don't push that.
don't push the thumbs down. No, please don't push the thumbs down. It throws the algorithm off.
Yeah, don't just go crazy and start pushing buttons.
All right. So if you go right here where it says paranormal_-_spirits, you can go to X, Instagram, or Twitter and see our stuff there. You can go to our website at paranormal-spirits.com. Huh?
You said X, Instagram,
What did I say?
and Twitter.
Instagram, X,
and Twitter, same thing.
TikTok.
That's the one.
Thank you. The Chinese spy app. You said.
Chinese spy app. Yes.
So you can go there. You can go to paranormal-spirits.com. That is our website, where from there you can read our reviews on liquor. You can get to all of our multimedia sites. You can get to our Facebook page, which is Booze with Benefits, BOOS with Benefits. You can also go to our swag store and pick you up a Paranormal-Spirits dad cap, mug, boozy koozie,
Boozy's koozie.
Racerback
tees, regular tees. We got all kinds of good stuff out there. So go check us out. Did I forget anything? Is that all there?
I think that's all.
Did I get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looky there. All right. Anything else?
Don't go into the woods alone.
Don't go into the woods, especially in Canada.
If things call your voice, your name
don't.
from the woods, don't go. Or if things cry for help in the woods at night,
Don't go.
Don't be a good Samaritan and end up in a Wendigo
food.
tummy or skinwalker food.
Oh, all right. Y'all have a good night.
Night-night.
Bye-bye.
So there's this